In the dusty plains of West Texas, where hope seems as scarce as water, a broken cowboy named Caleb Morrison made a discovery that would shatter everything humanity thought it knew about the ocean's depths. What began as a desperate search for meaning after losing his ranch became an impossible love story with a creature from another world. But the secrets Ariana shared with him weren't just about her people. They were about the survival of both their civilizations and the terrible choice only he could make. Caleb Morrison had nothing left. The drought had taken his cattle first, then his land, and finally his will to keep fighting. At 42 years old, he found himself standing at the edge of the Gulf of Mexico with a truck full of belongings and nowhere to go. The bank had seized his family's ranch, an Amarillo 5 generations of Morrisons, erased by a signature on foreclosure papers. His wife had left him 2 years prior, tired of choosing between a stubborn man and a dying dream. His daughter hadn't returned his calls in 6 months. The coastal town of Marisol Bay wasn't a destination. It was simply where the road ended. Caleb took a job on a commercial fishing vessel called the St. Catherine, working deck crew for a captain who didn't ask questions about a cowboy who'd never seen the ocean before turning middle-aged. The work was brutal 18-hour days hauling nets, gutting fish, scrubbing decks until his hands bled. But Caleb welcomed the pain. It was better than thinking. The other crew members kept their distance. There was something unsettling about the tall, weathered man who never smiled, never complained, and stared at the horizon like he was searching for something he couldn't name. They called him Dust behind his back, a landlocked ghost who didn't belong on water. 3 months into his new life, everything changed during a routine night fishing expedition. The St. Catherine had ventured farther from shore than usual, chasing a school of tuna that seemed unnaturally large on the sonar. Captain Reeves was excited. This could be the haul that saved their struggling season. But as they lowered the nets, something felt wrong. The water had turned an impossible shade of luminescent blue, glowing from somewhere deep beneath the surface. "Pull them up! Pull them up now!" Reeves suddenly shouted, his voice cracking with panic. But it was too late. The nets caught on something massive, and the St. Catherine lurched violently to starboard. Caleb was thrown against the railing, his ribs screaming in protest. Then he saw them shapes in the water, humanoid but wrong, moving with fluid grace that no human could match. Their skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, and their eyes reflected the boat's lights like cats caught in headlights. The net tore. The boat righted itself. And as quickly as they'd appeared, the shapes vanished into the depths. Captain Reeves ordered them back to port immediately, his face ashen. That night, the crew drank heavily at the dock bar, inventing rational explanations, dolphins, manatees, tricks of light and tired eyes. But Caleb didn't drink with them. He stood on the pier long after everyone else had left, staring at the dark water, feeling for the first time in years that inexplicable pull of curiosity. The next night, Caleb returned to the pier alone. He bought a small inflatable raft and a waterproof flashlight from the marine supply store, spending money he couldn't afford to lose. He couldn't explain what drove him, whether it was desperation, madness, or something deeper. He just knew he had to go back to those waters. He paddled out for an hour, using the boat's GPS coordinates that he'd secretly photographed from the St. Catherine's navigation system. When he reached the approximate location, he killed his flashlight and waited. The ocean was calm, almost unnaturally so. The stars above were brilliant without light pollution, and Caleb felt smaller than he ever had on the endless Texas plains. Then the water began to glow. It started as a faint shimmer, like moonlight on waves, but quickly intensified into that same ethereal blue he'd seen before. Caleb's heart hammered in his chest. He should have been terrified. Instead, he felt strangely calm, as if this moment had been inevitable since the day he was born. A head broke the surface 20 feet from his raft. Then another, and another. They surrounded him, at least a dozen of them, treading water effortlessly, their luminescent skin creating pools of light in the darkness. They were humanoid from the waist up, with features that were hauntingly beautiful despite being distinctly inhuman. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, adapted for deep-sea darkness, and their hair moved independently like sea anemones. Below the waterline, Caleb could make out powerful tail fins that occasionally broke the surface. They watched him. He watched them. No one moved. Then, from directly beneath his raft, another figure emerged. This one was different. Her bioluminescence was brighter, patterned in ways that seemed almost deliberately decorative. Her features were more delicate, more expressive. When her eyes met Caleb's, he felt something shift in his chest, like a lock turning. She spoke, and impossibly, he understood her. The words weren't in English, they weren't in any human language, but meaning transferred directly into his mind. You are the one who returns. You are the one who seeks. Are you ready to leave behind what you were? Caleb's voice cracked when he finally answered. I've got nothing left to leave behind. The mermaid, who would later tell him her name, was Ariana, smiled, revealing teeth that were slightly too sharp to be human. Then welcome, Caleb Morrison. Welcome to the truth beneath the waves. Ariana took Caleb down that first night, though he'd never forget the terror of those initial moments. She gave him a bioluminescent pearl to hold in his mouth, a translation device. She explained through their telepathic link, but also something that would allow him to breathe underwater for short periods. The sensation of water flooding his lungs while the pearl converted it to oxygen was the most unnatural feeling he'd ever experienced, like drowning and being reborn simultaneously. The descent took 20 minutes, down through layers of ocean that became progressively stranger. They passed through schools of fish that scattered at their approach, through forests of kelp that reached up from the darkness like grasping hands, through waters that grew colder and then, inexplicably, warm again. Caleb's eyes screamed with pressure changes until Ariana touched points on his skull that somehow alleviated the pain. Then he saw it. Thessalora. The underwater city appeared first as distant lights in the abyss, then gradually resolved into something that defied Caleb's comprehension. It wasn't built on the ocean floor, it existed in the water itself, a massive structure of bioengineered coral and crystalline formations that seemed to grow organically while maintaining impossible architectural precision. Buildings spiraled upward and downward simultaneously, connected by tubes of flowing water that served as transportation. Gardens of bioluminescent flora provided light and food, tended by merpeople who moved through their three-dimensional city with balletic grace. The population was larger than Caleb expected, thousands of them, perhaps tens of thousands, going about lives that seemed both alien and strangely familiar. Children played games that involved three-dimensional acrobatics. Merchants sold goods in marketplaces where sound traveled differently, creating harmonies that hurt Caleb's human ears. Artisans crafted sculptures from living coral that continued to grow and change after completion. Ariana explained as they swam through the city's central districts. Her people, the Pelagian, had existed for millennia, long before humans developed civilization. They'd watched humanity's evolution from a distance, sometimes helping, often hiding. They'd inspired myths and legends across every culture that touched the ocean. But they'd never revealed themselves fully because they'd learned that humans feared what they couldn't control and destroyed what they feared. Why show me now? Caleb asked through their mental connection. Why break that silence? Ariana's expression darkened. She led him to the city's edge, where the bioluminescent lights faded and the water turned ominous. Because we're dying, Caleb, and we think your people are the reason. Over the following weeks, Caleb learned the terrible truth. The Pelagian civilization was collapsing. Their population had declined by 30% in just 2 generations. Birth rates had plummeted. Their carefully engineered coral structures were dying faster than they could repair them. Most alarming, their young were being born with deformities, twisted fins, malfunctioning bioluminescence, minds that couldn't form proper telepathic connections. The cause, according to their scientists, was human pollution. Specifically, a class of chemicals called endocrine disruptors that had flooded the oceans over the past century: plastics, pesticides, pharmaceutical runoff, industrial waste. These substances mimicked hormones in ways that the Pelagian biochemistry couldn't handle. They were being poisoned by the byproducts of human civilization that had never been designed with any thought for what lived below. "We've tried everything," Ariana explained one night as they floated in her dwelling, a private chamber carved from coral with walls that glowed soft purple. "We've moved our cities to deeper waters. We've developed filtration systems. We've even sent delegations to surface near human ships, hoping to be seen, to force the conversation. But we failed. And time is running out." Caleb felt the weight of guilt, even though he'd never worked in a factory or dumped chemicals in the ocean. "What do you need from me?" "We need a voice," Ariana said. "We need someone who can speak to humans as one of them. We need someone who can make them understand that they're not alone on this planet, and that their actions have consequences beyond what they can see. We need you." But there was more. Ariana admitted it haltingly over their conversations. The Pelagian Council, the governing body of elders, had another plan, a contingency if peaceful revelation failed. They discovered ancient weapons, biotechnology from their civilization's distant past when they'd fought wars among themselves. Weapons that could trigger tsunamis, that could poison surface waters, that could make the oceans uninhabitable for human shipping and fishing. "There are factions among my people who believe war is inevitable," Ariana confessed. "They say humans will never change voluntarily, that the only language land dwellers understand is force. They want to strike first, before we're too weak to fight." Caleb had fallen in love with Ariana during those weeks. He recognized it even if he didn't fully understand it. She was brilliant, compassionate, fierce in her loyalty to her people, and so different from anyone he'd ever known that his heart ached with the impossibility of their connection. But he also saw the danger. Two civilizations on the brink, with him somehow caught between them. The turning point came when Ariana took him to meet her family. Her father, Dorian, was a high-ranking member of the council and a skeptic of human nature. Her mother, Lissa, was a healer who'd spent decades trying to save deformed children. They welcomed Caleb with cautious courtesy, serving him specially prepared foods that his human digestion could handle, asking careful questions about surface life. "You have children?" Lissa asked gently. "A daughter," Caleb admitted. "Haven't spoken to her in a long time. I failed her. Failed at being a father, a husband, a rancher. Pretty much failed at everything that mattered." Dorian studied him with those unsettling large eyes. "And yet my daughter believes you're the key to our survival. She must see something in you that you don't see in yourself." That night, lying in Ariana's chamber while she slept beside him, the Pelagian needed sleep just like humans. Though they could do it while floating, Caleb made his decision. He would return to the surface. He would tell the world about the Pelagian. And somehow, he would bridge two worlds before they destroyed each other. But first, Ariana had a proposal that changed everything. "Marry me, Caleb Morrison. By our customs and yours. Let our union be the symbol that two species can coexist. Let our bond be the proof that love can cross any divide." The wedding ceremony was held in the Temple of Currents, the spiritual heart of Thessalora. Caleb had never been religious, but standing in that ancient place, a massive cavern where natural ocean currents created constantly shifting patterns of water and light, he felt the presence of something greater than himself. Hundreds of Pelagian attended, their bioluminescence creating a constellation of living stars around the couple. The ritual was conducted by an elder named Cashin, whose scales had faded to nearly white with age. It involved exchanges of gifts, Caleb offered his grandfather's pocket watch, one of the few possessions he'd kept from his old life, while Ariana gave him a pendant made from her own scales, woven together in a pattern that would mark him as family to any Pelagian who saw it. They shared blood, Caleb's finger pricked by a coral blade, mixed with a drop from Ariana's palm, and spoke vows that were simultaneously spoken aloud and transmitted telepathically through the watching crowd. "I bind myself to you across the boundary of worlds," Ariana said, her voice strong. "Your struggles are my struggles. Your pain is my pain. Your hope is my hope." Until the last current stills, Caleb's voice shook. "I'm just a broken-down cowboy who never should have made it this far. But if you'll have me, I swear, I'll spend whatever time I've got left making sure your people survive. Making sure our peoples find peace. Or I'll die trying." The crowd erupted in a sound that was part song, part whale call, reverberating through the water with physical force. And in that moment, Caleb felt the weight of their trust settling on his shoulders, thousands of lives depending on a man who failed at everything he'd ever attempted. The celebration lasted 3 days by surface time. Caleb met dozens of Pelagian families, heard their stories, saw their struggles. He played with children who couldn't understand why he couldn't do backflips through the water. He shared meals with warriors who defended their territory from sharks and other deep-sea predators. He attended councils where scholars debated philosophy and scientists presented research on environmental collapse. But on the 4th day, everything fell apart. Caleb had returned to the surface to get supplies. He still needed surface food regularly, and the breathing pearl had limits. He'd established a small camp in a secluded cove near Marisol Bay, hidden from prying eyes. He was unpacking provisions when he heard voices, human voices, speaking English. A group of marine biologists had set up equipment on the far side of the cove, installing sensors and cameras. They were from a university research team studying unusual bioluminescent patterns that had been reported in the area. They'd been there for hours before Caleb arrived, and their cameras had been recording everything. Panic seized Caleb's chest. He approached them, trying to seem casual, a local fisherman curious about their work. But one of the researchers, a sharp-eyed woman named Dr. Patricia Chen, studied him with obvious suspicion. "You're the cowboy everyone talks about in town," she said. "The one who doesn't fish but works on fishing boats. The one who disappears for days at a time." Her eyes dropped to the pendant around his neck, partially visible under his shirt. "What is that?" "I've never seen scales like that." Caleb's hand instinctively covered the pendant. "It's nothing. Just a souvenir." But Dr. Chen wasn't fooled. She showed him her tablet, where sonar data displayed unusual formations on the ocean floor structures too regular to be natural. "We've detected acoustic signatures that don't match any known marine life. Coordinated movements. Something that looks almost like organized activity." She leaned closer. "You know something. I can see it in your face." Before Caleb could respond, one of the other researchers shouted. Their underwater cameras had captured something, a figure, humanoid, with luminescent skin and a tail. It was fleeting, just 3 seconds of footage, but unmistakable. Dr. Chun's face went pale with excitement. "My God, is that real? Is that actually real?" Caleb had to make a split-second decision. He could deny everything, destroy the evidence somehow, buy more time. Or he could trust his instincts and bring someone else into the circle. He thought of Ariana's words. "We need a voice." Maybe they needed more than one. "It's real," Caleb said quietly. "And there's a whole civilization down there. But if you expose them before they're ready, before there's a plan for contact, people will panic. Governments will get involved. The military. You'll start a war without meaning to." Dr. Chun stared at him. Her colleagues were still focused on the footage, rewinding it, enhancing it, arguing about whether it was authentic. "Take me down there," she said. "Let me meet them. I'm a scientist. I can help prepare the world for this." but I need to see it firsthand. It was a risk. But looking at Dr. Chun, Caleb saw something he recognized, the same desperate curiosity that had driven him into the water that first night. And maybe, just maybe, a trained scientist could help in ways a washed-up cowboy never could. He took her down that night, with Ariana's blessing. Dr. Chun's reaction to Thessalora was everything Caleb's had been and more: wonder, fear, reverence, the complete reorganization of her worldview happening in real time. She wept when she saw the deformed children. She took notes frantically on waterproof tablets the Pelagian provided. She asked 1,000 questions about their biology, their history, their needs. But her presence in the city triggered an unexpected crisis. The war faction, led by a scarred warrior named Theron, saw Dr. Chun as proof of their fears. One human becomes two, Theron argued before the council. 2 becomes 10. 10 becomes an invasion. They'll study us, classify us, capture us, experiment on us. This is how extinction begins, not with violence, but with naive cooperation. Dorian, Ariana's father, tried to mediate. Dr. Chun has skills we need. She can help us understand the chemical poisoning better than our own scientists. She can betray us. Theron interrupted. You've allowed your daughter's romantic delusion to cloud your judgment, Dorian. This human male was bad enough. Now we're giving our secrets to surface science? We should strike now, while we still can. Render their coastal cities uninhabitable. Force them to negotiate from a position of weakness. The council chamber erupted in argument. Caleb stood beside Ariana, feeling her hand grip as tightly. This was the moment she feared her people tearing themselves apart over how to respond to the human threat. Then Dr. Chun did something unexpected. She approached the center of the chamber, her movements clumsy in the water, and addressed the council directly. I understand your fear, she said, her words translated by the pearl Ariana had given her. My people have done terrible things out of ignorance and greed. We've poisoned your home without even knowing you existed. But I'm also a mother. I have 2 children on the surface. And the chemicals that are killing your young, they're killing ours too. Cancer rates in coastal communities have skyrocketed. Birth defects, neurological disorders. We're poisoning ourselves along with you. She pulled up data on her tablet, projecting holographic charts that the Pelagian technology could interface with. If we work together, we can fight the real enemy, not each other, but the corporations and governments that profit from pollution. My people need to know you exist, but the revelation has to be controlled, strategic. We need to present your existence alongside proof of what we've done to you. We need to make it a moral imperative that humans can't ignore. Theron swam closer, his expression dangerous. And if they ignore it anyway? If they see us as resources to exploit or threats to eliminate? Dr. Chun met his gaze steadily. Then I'll stand with you. I'll help you fight. Because I've seen your children, and I've seen mine. And any world where we can't save both isn't worth preserving. The silence that followed was profound. Then, slowly Cashin, the ancient elder who'd married Caleb and Ariana, spoke. Perhaps the currents bring us what we need, even when we don't recognize it. This council calls for a vote. Do we proceed with careful revelation, guided by our human allies? Or do we prepare for war? The vote was close, dangerously close. But ultimately, the peace faction won by a narrow margin. They would move forward with a plan for controlled first contact, coordinated through Dr. Chun's scientific networks. They would present evidence of Pelagian existence alongside documentation of ecological damage. They would appeal to humanity as better nature while keeping their ancient weapons ready if that nature proved insufficient. Caleb should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt terrified, because he knew better than most that humanity's better nature was a fragile, unreliable thing. And the secrets he inherited by marrying into the Pelagian weren't just about their existence. They were about the terrible power they possessed, and the choice he might have to make if everything went wrong. The plan moved forward with agonizing slowness. Dr. Chun returned to the surface and began carefully building a coalition of trusted scientists, environmentalists, and journalists. She showed them fragments of evidence, a scale from Ariana's pendant, water samples with Pelagian DNA, photographs of architectural structures that couldn't be natural. Each person she brought into the secret was vetted extensively, their backgrounds checked, their motivations assessed. Caleb split his time between two worlds, and the strain was destroying him. On the surface, he was Dr. Chun's assistant, the rough-edged guide who'd stumbled onto the discovery of the millennium. Below, he was Ariana's husband, trying to learn the complexities of Pelagian politics while watching his wife's people slide closer to desperation. The deformities were getting worse. Caleb attended a birthing ceremony where a child was born with fins that would never function properly, condemned to a life of limited mobility in a three-dimensional civilization. The parents' anguish was identical to any human parent's grief, and Caleb felt his own heart breaking. He thought of his daughter, Sarah, wondered what she'd think of her father now. Would she be proud? Disgusted? He still hadn't found the courage to call her. Ariana was changing too. The optimism she'd had when they first met was eroding, replaced by a hardness that frightened Caleb. She'd begun attending Theron's strategy meetings, the war faction's contingency planning. When Caleb confronted her about it, they had their first real fight. "You don't understand what it's like." Ariana's bioluminescence flared angry red. "Every day we wait, more of my people suffer. More children are born broken. And your Dr. Chun builds her careful coalition, holds her cautious meetings, while we die by degrees. Change takes time," Caleb argued. "You can't force humans to accept something this big overnight. They need to be prepared, educated. We don't have time." Ariana's telepathic voice was sharp enough to hurt. "Theron is right about one thing. Every moment we wait is a moment we grow weaker. If we're going to fight, we need to do it before we've lost the strength to win." "You don't want a war," Caleb said desperately. "I know you don't. That's not who you are." "You don't know me as well as you think." Ariana turned away, her tail creating currents that pushed Caleb back. "You've been here, what, 6 months? You've seen one city, met a fraction of my people, learned a handful of our customs. You married me thinking you were saving us, but maybe you were just running from your own failed life. Maybe I'm just another thing you'll abandon when it gets too hard." The words hit harder than any physical blow. Caleb floated there, stunned, as Ariana swam away into the dark waters beyond her dwelling. They didn't speak for 3 days in eternity in their still new marriage. Meanwhile, Dr. Chun was making progress. She'd arranged a presentation at a major environmental conference, where she planned to reveal preliminary evidence of an undiscovered intelligent species affected by ocean pollution. The revelation would be carefully staged, suggestive, but not overwhelming, designed to prepare the world for larger disclosures to come. But the day before the conference, everything went catastrophically wrong. One of Dr. Chun's trusted colleagues, a marine biologist named Dr. Marcus Reeves, leaked the full story to a sensationalist news network. Not the careful, contextualized version they'd planned, but a breathless expose filled with blurry photographs, wild speculation, and claims of government cover-ups. Within hours, mermaids discovered off Gulf Coast was trending worldwide. Social media exploded with debate believers, skeptics, conspiracy theorists, religious groups claiming it was proof of divine creation or demonic deception. The military got involved. Submarines were deployed to search the waters around Marisol Bay. The town itself was overrun with journalists, YouTubers, and tourists hoping for a glimpse of the impossible. Caleb watched the chaos unfold from his cove hideout, his heart sinking. Dr. Chun called him, her voice shaking. "I'm so sorry, Marcus. I don't know if he was paid off or if he just wanted the glory, but he's destroyed everything we built. The military is offering protection if I'll confirm the story and provide locations. They're talking about establishing contact on their terms, military terms. Don't do it, Caleb said. If the military finds this Allura before we're ready, it'll be exactly what Theron predicted. They'll see a threat, not a civilization. What choice do I have? If I refuse, they'll find it anyway. At least if I cooperate, I can try to influence how they approach. No. Caleb's voice was hard. You wait. Give me 24 hours. I'll talk to Ariana, to the council. Maybe we can control this somehow. He swam down to Thessalora immediately, pushing the breathing Pearl's limits, arriving with his lungs burning. The city was in chaos. Every Pelagian had heard about the surface revelation. Their telepathic network spread information faster than any human internet. The council was in emergency session, with Theron's faction demanding immediate preemptive strikes. Caleb burst into the council chamber, interrupting the proceedings. You can't start a war over bad timing. Yes, the revelation happened wrong, but humans aren't united. Most of them still don't believe you exist. If you strike now, you'll make every skeptic into a true believer, a believer who thinks you're the enemy. Theron rounded on him. You've lost any right to advise us, human. Your kind has shown their true nature. The moment they learned of us, they sent war machines to hunt us. You promised peaceful contact and delivered invasion. Those submarines are scouting, not attacking, Caleb protested. There's still time to... Time? Theron's laugh was bitter. Show him, Cashin. Show this surface dweller what we discovered while he was playing diplomat. The ancient elder looked pained, but activated a holographic display. It showed sonar data from the past week, human vessels systematically mapping the ocean floor, getting closer to Thessalora with each pass. But that wasn't the worst part. The data also showed chemical analysis of water samples the humans had taken. They know our biological markers now, Cashin explained quietly. They can track our population centers. Within days, possibly hours, they'll pinpoint our major cities. And look here, double quotes. He zoomed in on communications intercepts. Your military leaders are already discussing quarantine protocols, containment strategies. They speak of us as a biological curiosity to be studied and controlled. Caleb felt sick. He turned to Ariana, who'd been silent throughout the meeting. You knew about this? Her expression was unreadable. I knew. And I've made my choice, Caleb. The council has voted. We strike at dawn surface time. Coordinated attacks on military vessels, followed by localized tsunamis that will disable coastal infrastructure without massive casualties. We'll force negotiations from a position of strength. Show that we won't be contained or studied like animals. You'll start a war you can't win, Caleb shouted. Even if you sink every ship they send, even if you flood every coastal city, humans will respond with everything they have. Depth charges. Submarines with nuclear weapons. They'll poison the entire ocean if they feel threatened enough. Then both our civilizations will die, Ariana said coldly. At least we'll die with dignity, fighting for our survival, rather than slowly suffocating on humanity's waste while begging for mercy that will never come. Caleb looked around the council chamber, seeing the fear and anger in every face. These weren't monsters. They were desperate people pushed to the brink. And he understood. God help him. He understood why they were making this choice. But he also understood what it would mean. The end of both worlds. There's another way, Caleb said quietly. But it means trusting me one more time. It means I might not make it back. Caleb's plan was insane, but it was the only option left. He would return to the surface and contact his daughter, Sarah. Not just any call, he would ask her to arrange a meeting with her employer, Senator Margaret Reeves, one of the most influential environmental legislators in Congress and, critically, Marcus Reeves' mother. If anyone could bypass military protocols and arrange direct civilian-led contact, it was her. Your daughter hates you, Ariana said bluntly. They were alone in her chamber, precious hours ticking away before the planned attacks. You've told me yourself she won't even answer your calls. She will this time, Caleb said, with more confidence than he felt. Because I'm not calling as her failure of a father. I'm calling as the man who married a mermaid and might be the only thing standing between two civilizations destroying each other. The call took 3 attempts before Sarah answered. When her face appeared on his salvaged smartphone screen, she was 32 now. Looked so much like her mother it hurt her expression was pure steel. I don't know what you could possibly say that I want to hear, she began. I'm married, Caleb interrupted, to someone named Ariana. She's from an underwater civilization of intelligent beings. They're dying because of pollution, and in about 6 hours they're going to attack. Use military vessels to force the government to acknowledge their existence. Unless you can help me arrange a meeting with Senator Reeves in the next 4 hours, we're looking at a war that'll kill millions on both sides. The silence stretched so long Caleb thought the connection had dropped. Then Sarah laughed a sharp, almost hysterical sound. You couldn't just be an alcoholic like a normal deadbeat dad. You had to go and have a complete psychotic break. That's almost impressive in its terribleness. I'm sending you a video, Caleb said. He uploaded footage he'd recorded of Thessalora, of Ariana swimming through the city, of the council in session. Watch it. You're a documentary filmmaker. You know real from fake. Then call me back. Please, Sarah. I know I've got no right to ask you for anything, but I'm asking anyway. He ended the call and waited, watching the minutes burn away. 15 minutes later, Sarah called back. Her face was pale. I watched it. I checked the metadata. It's not CGI, or if it is, it's better than anything Hollywood can produce. Dad. What the hell have you gotten into? Something bigger than me? Bigger than my failures. Maybe the first thing in my life that actually matters. Caleb's voice broke. I know I wasn't there when you needed me. I know I chose a dying ranch over my family. But I'm asking you to be there now, for people who never had a chance to disappoint you. Can you get me a meeting with Senator Reeves? Sarah closed her eyes. She's in Houston right now. Emergency session about the mermaid reports. I've done freelance work for her campaign. I can probably get you in the building. But Dad. If this is real, if you're not having some kind of elaborate breakdown, the scale of what you're asking, double quotes. I know. But will you do it? Another pause. Then, softly, I'll try. For them, not for you. That's all I'm asking. 3 hours later, Caleb was in a conference room in Houston's federal building, still dripping seawater, facing Senator Margaret Reeves and 2 of her senior advisors. Sarah stood in the corner, filming everything, her journalist's instinct overriding her confusion and anger. Senator Reeves was in her 60s, sharp-eyed, with the bearing of someone who'd spent decades in political warfare. She listened to Caleb's explanation without interruption, watched the videos he showed her, examined the pendant around his neck. My son leaked this story, she said finally. Marcus has always been impulsive, hungry for recognition. I assume that's not a coincidence. You were working with Dr. Chun. Who was working with him? Yes, ma'am. And these Pelagian are planning attacks within ... double quote. She checked her watch. 2 hours now? Unless I can get back with proof that there's another way. Your son's leak destroyed months of careful preparation, but it also created an opening. The whole world is watching now. If the government acknowledges their existence first, offers protection instead of containment, opens dialogue instead of sending submarines, maybe we avoid the worst. One of the advisors spoke up. Senator, this could be career suicide. If it's a hoax, you look like a fool. If it's real and goes wrong, you're blamed for whatever happens. The safe play is to distance yourself. Let the military handle it. Senator Reeves smiled thinly. I didn't get into this business to make safe plays. She turned back to Caleb. Here's what I can do. I can arrange a joint session emergency broadcast to the nation. I can't guarantee the president will participate, but I have enough allies to force Congress to listen. You'll have 15 minutes to present evidence and make your case. But Caleb Morrison, if you're wasting my time, if this is some elaborate fraud, I will personally ensure you spend the rest of your life in a federal prison. Understood? Understood. Understood. And if it's real, Senator Reeves continued, you understand you're not just speaking for yourself. You're the first official human representative to an alien civilization. Every word you say will be analyzed by every government on Earth. You'll be making promises that you may not have the authority to keep. I know, Caleb said, but I'd rather make promises and fail trying to keep them than watch two worlds burn without even attempting peace. Senator Reeves nodded slowly. You've got 2 hours to prepare. My team will coach you on presentation, but the content has to come from you. Make it count. Caleb spent those 2 hours in the most intense preparation of his life. Senator Reeves' communication specialists taught him how to speak to cameras, how to project authority without arrogance, how to humanize the Pelagian without making them seem weak. Sarah helped him organize the video evidence into a coherent narrative. And through it all, Caleb kept checking his waterproof watch, calculating how much time remained before the Salora's warriors launched their assault. With 30 minutes to spare, Caleb used the breathing pearl one more time to send a telepathic message to Ariana. I'm speaking to the human leaders. Live broadcast. If it goes well, you'll have proof that some of us want peace. Please, delay the attacks. Give me this chance. The response came back cold. The council has voted. The attacks proceed as planned. Your broadcast may come too late to stop what we've set in motion. I'm sorry, Caleb. I do love you. But I love my people more. Caleb's heart shattered, but there was no time to process it. He was ushered into a chamber filled with cameras and lights, facing a screen showing dozens of congressional representatives joining remotely. Senator Reeves gave a brief introduction, her voice steady despite the historical magnitude of the moment. Distinguished colleagues, I'm about to present evidence of an intelligent non-human civilization living in our oceans. What you're about to hear will challenge everything we thought we knew about our planet. I ask that you listen with open minds and open hearts. Then it was Caleb's turn. He stood before the cameras, a broken-down cowboy who lost everything, and somehow found himself at the center of humanity's most important moment, and began to speak. My name is Caleb Morrison. 6 months ago, I was a failed rancher with nothing to live for. Today, I'm married to a woman from a civilization that's existed for millennia beneath the waves. Her name is Ariana. Her people are called the Pelagian, and they're dying because of us. He showed the videos Thessalora's beauty and its deterioration, the deformed children, the scientific data on chemical pollution. He explained the Pelagians' attempts to avoid contact, their growing desperation, their planned attacks that were now mere minutes away. They don't want war, Caleb said, his voice breaking, but we've given them no choice. We've poisoned their home, killed their children, and now we've sent military forces to hunt them before we've even tried to talk. If I was in their position, I'd probably be loading weapons too. He paused, looking directly into the camera, speaking not to politicians, but to every human who might be watching. But here's the thing, we're not separate from them. The chemicals killing their young are in our water too. The plastic choking their cities is in our food chain. The climate change disrupting their currents is destroying our coastlines. We're all dying together, and we're too stupid to realize that saving them means saving ourselves. One of the congressional representatives interrupted. Mr. Morrison, even if we accept that these beings exist, what exactly are you proposing? We can't just shut down all industrial activity overnight. The economic impact alone would be less than the economic impact of a war with a civilization that can trigger tsunamis. Caleb shot back, or less than the cost of watching our own children die from the same poisons. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'm saying it's necessary. And I'm saying that right now, in the next few minutes, the Legion warriors are preparing to strike because they believe humans can't be reasoned with. Prove them wrong. Senator Reeves, you have the power to issue an executive order for environmental protection. Congressional leaders, you can fast-track legislation. Show the Pelagian that humans can change when we understand what's at stake. Senator Reeves stepped forward. I'm prepared to introduce emergency legislation for oceanic protection zones and immediate bans on the worst chemical pollutants. But I need support from both parties, and I need it now. What happened next was unprecedented in modern political history. As cameras broadcast to the world, congressional representatives began declaring their positions in real time. Some were skeptical, demanding more proof. Others were convinced by the video evidence. Religious leaders called in, some declaring the Pelagian to be divine messengers, others warning of demonic deception. But slowly and possibly, a coalition formed. Environmental representatives who'd fought for years for stronger protections suddenly had the evidence they needed. Coastal representatives facing rising seas and dying fisheries saw common cause. Even some military leaders, watching the broadcast from the Pentagon, began arguing for diplomatic solutions over violent confrontation. 15 minutes into the broadcast, with Caleb's deadline expired and his heart in his throat, Senator Reeves received a message. "The President is calling," she announced. "He wants to speak to you directly, Mr. Morrison." The President of the United States appeared on screen, his expression grave. "Mr. Morrison, I've been briefed on your claims. I've seen the evidence. If what you're saying is true, this represents the most significant moment in human history. I'm prepared to issue an executive order establishing protected oceanic zones and ordering all military forces to stand down from aggressive posturing. But I need something from you. Anything," Caleb said. "I need you to arrange a meeting, face-to-face, between my representatives and the Pelagian leadership. No weapons, no tricks, just dialogue. Can you do that?" Caleb checked his watch. The attack should have started 5 minutes ago. Either they'd been delayed or the world was about to get much worse. "I can try, Mr. President, but I need to go now. I need to get back underwater and hope they'll still listen to me." "Then go," the President said. "And Mr. Morrison? Thank you for your courage and for believing in humanity's better nature even when we don't deserve it." Caleb ran out of the building, past security who'd been ordered to let him through, into Sarah's car, where she was waiting with the engine running. "I'm driving you to the coast," she said, tears streaming down her face. "And Dad, I'm proud of you. I don't understand any of this, but I'm proud." They made the 2-hour drive in 90 minutes. Sarah's documentary instincts capturing every moment on camera. When they reached the cove, Caleb didn't hesitate. He dove into the water with the breathing pole and swam down faster than was safe, his ears screaming, his lungs burning. He reached Thessalora to find it eerily quiet. The warriors were gone, already deployed to their attack positions. The city felt like a ghost town, with only the elderly and the young remaining. Caleb swam frantically to the council chamber, where he found Cashin alone, his ancient face etched with sorrow. "They wouldn't listen," the elder said. "Even after your broadcast began, Thurin insisted it was human deception, buying time to launch their own attack. The warriors left 30 minutes ago. They're targeting the submarine fleet off the coast. By now, ... He paused, listening to something Caleb couldn't hear. "By now, the first attacks have begun." Caleb found Ariana at the city's edge, in the weapons chamber where the ancient biotechnology was stored. She was in full warrior gear bio-armor made from engineered coral, weapons that could generate sonic pulses, capable of crushing a submarine's hull. Her bioluminescence flickered between combat red and the soft blue of sorrow. "I saw your broadcast," she said without turning around. It was beautiful, Caleb. Everything I hoped humans could be. But hope doesn't stop weapons that are already deployed. Hope doesn't bring back warriors who've already engaged the enemy. How bad? Caleb asked. 3 submarines damaged. No human casualties, yet we're targeting infrastructure, not people. But they're returning fire. Depth charges. 2 of our warriors are injured, 1 critically. She finally turned to face him. And now I have to make a choice. Do I order our people to stand down based on promises your leaders might not keep? Or do I press the attack while we still have the advantage? The president gave his word, Caleb said desperately. He's ordered the military to stand down. There's going to be a face-to-face meeting, negotiated peace. Human presidents can be overruled. Human promises can be broken. Ariana swam closer, her expression anguished. I want to believe you, Caleb. I want to believe in the world we could build together. But I'm also a leader who has to think about worst-case scenarios. What if this is a trap? What if your people are using the negotiation as cover to position more weapons? What if I stand down and condemn my civilization to extinction? From above, through the water, came a deep rumbling. Both of them looked up instinctively. What was that? Caleb asked. Cashin's voice came through their telepathic link. The submarines are withdrawing, all of them. They're broadcasting on frequencies. They know we can hear messages of non-aggression, requests for dialogue. Caleb. I think your president kept his word. Ariana's face crumpled. The warrior mask dissolved, and for a moment she was just a woman carrying impossible weight. Call them back, she whispered. Call our warriors back. Tell them we're trying peace. The next hours were chaos of a different kind. The frantic logistics of de-escalation. Pelagian warriors returned to the Salora, some skeptical, some relieved. The injured were taken to healers. Theron argued vehemently against trusting the human stand-down, but even he couldn't deny that the submarines were genuinely withdrawing, not repositioning for attack. Meanwhile, on the surface, the world was processing the biggest revelation in human history. The broadcast had been seen by over 1 billion people. Social media exploded with reactions ranging from wonder to fear to denial. Religious institutions grappled with theological implications. Scientists demanded access for research. Conspiracy theorists insisted it was an elaborate hoax, despite overwhelming evidence. But Senator Reeves and her coalition moved fast. Within 24 hours, they passed emergency legislation creating protected oceanic zones where human industrial activity would be severely restricted. The president signed executive orders banning the worst chemical pollutants and establishing a task force for human-Pelagian relations. It wasn't everything the Pelagian needed, but it was a start, a genuine, concrete start. The face-to-face meeting was arranged for 3 days later in neutral territory, a specially constructed underwater habitat that could accommodate both species. The human delegation included the president, Senator Reeves, Dr. Chen, and representatives from the UN. The Pelagians sent the full council, including both Dorian's peace faction and Theron's warriors. Caleb and Ariana attended as the symbolic bridge between worlds, the married couple whose union represented the possibility of coexistence. Standing, or floating, between the 2 delegations, Caleb felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The president spoke first, his words translated by Pelagian technology. On behalf of humanity, I want to apologize. We've shared this planet for millennia without knowing you existed, and in our ignorance, we've poisoned your home. That ends today. We commit to working with your civilization to heal the damage we've caused and to build a future where both our peoples can thrive. Dorian responded for the Pelagian. We accept your words, and we will hold you to them. But understand we've learned caution over thousands of years. We'll verify your actions, not just trust your promises. We'll remain hidden from the majority of humanity until we reconfident the contact won't lead to exploitation. And we'll maintain our defenses because hope is not a strategy for survival. Fair enough, the president said. We're proposing a joint commission, equal representation from both civilizations to oversee environmental restoration and manage ongoing contact. We're also proposing cultural exchange programs, scientific collaboration, and eventually, when both our peoples are ready, open acknowledgement of your existence to the broader world. The negotiations lasted for hours, covering everything from territorial waters to technology sharing to the rights of mixed-species families like Caleb and Ariana. Theron continued to voice skepticism, but even he couldn't deny that humans were making genuine concessions, giving up fishing rights in key areas, committing billions to ocean cleanup, sharing technology that could help the Pelagian adapt to chemical contamination. Dr. Chun presented research showing that Pelagian biology could actually help humans understand and combat the same pollutants affecting both species. Your people have evolved resistance mechanisms we can learn from, she explained. Collaboration isn't just altruism, it's mutual survival. As the sun set on the third day of negotiations, not that anyone underwater could see it, a framework agreement was signed. It wasn't perfect. There were dozens of unresolved issues that would require years of further discussion. But it was real. It was a commitment. It was two civilizations choosing coexistence over conflict. That night, Caleb and Ariana returned to Thessalora together. The city was celebrating cautiously, skeptically, but genuinely. Children played in the currents with less fear. Healers discussed new treatment possibilities using hybrid human-Pelagian medical knowledge. Even Theron grudgingly admitted that perhaps humans were capable of growth. In their private chamber, Ariana finally let herself break down. She wept in Caleb's arms, releasing months of tension and terror. "I almost started a war," she said. "I almost destroyed everything because I was too afraid to hope." "You were protecting your people," Caleb said gently. "That's not wrong. And honestly, the threat of force probably made humans take the situation more seriously. They needed to understand the stakes." "You saved us," Ariana said, looking up at him. "A broken-down cowboy who'd lost everything. You saved both our civilizations." Caleb shook his head. "We saved each other. You gave me a reason to matter again. You gave me a family, a purpose, something worth fighting for. And yeah, maybe I helped bridge the gap between our peoples. But you were right when you said I was running from my failures. I was. You just gave me something worth running toward instead." Over the following months, the human-Pelagian collaboration deepened. Ocean pollution levels began to decline measurably. Pelagian birth defects decreased. Human scientists made breakthroughs in understanding marine ecosystems that have been mysteries for centuries. Cultural exchanges began carefully selected humans visiting Thessalora, Pelagian representatives traveling to surface facilities in specially designed vehicles. Caleb rebuilt his relationship with Sarah, who'd won awards for her documentary about first contact. She'd even started dating a Pelagian named Lyric, a relationship that scandalized both species but also symbolized the possibilities of the new world they were building. Not everything was perfect. There were incidents, human fishermen who violated protected zones, Pelagian warriors who remained suspicious of surface dwellers, politicians who tried to exploit the situation for their own gain. The Joint Commission dealt with a constant stream of conflicts and misunderstandings. But the alternative war, mutual destruction, the end of both civilizations remained fresh enough in everyone's memory to motivate continued cooperation. Slowly and possibly, two species that had existed in ignorant separation for millennia began to build something new together. A year after first contact, Ariana gave birth to a daughter. The pregnancy had been considered impossible. Human and Pelagian biology were too different. But life, as Cashin observed with his ancient wisdom, had a way of defying expectations. The child they named her Marina was a hybrid with features of both species. She had her mother's luminescent skin, but her father's ability to breathe air as well as water. She could swim with the grace of the Pelagian, but could also walk on land once she matured. Biologists called her a miracle. Politicians called her a symbol. Religious leaders called her proof of divine intention. Caleb just called her his daughter, and loved her with the fierce devotion of a man who failed at fatherhood once and refused to fail again. On Marina's first birthday, Caleb stood on the shore of Marisol Bay at sunset, watching the waves roll in. He thought about the man he'd been 18 months ago. Desperate, broken, convinced his life was over. He thought about all the failures that had brought him to that point, all the wrong choices and missed opportunities. And he realized that maybe those failures had been necessary. Maybe he'd needed to lose everything to be ready for what came next. Maybe being broken was what allowed him to understand the Pelagian's desperation. Maybe his humility, born from failure, was what made him acceptable as a bridge between worlds. Ariana surfaced nearby, Marina cradled in her arms. The baby giggled, reaching for her father with tiny webbed hands. Caleb waded into the water and took his daughter, holding her close. "What are you thinking?" Ariana asked, her bioluminescence a soft, contented blue. "I'm thinking about secrets," Caleb said. "When we got married, you said I'd inherit secrets. I thought you meant knowledge about your technology, your history, your hidden cities, and I did inherit that. But the real secret was simpler." "What was it?" "That it's never too late. That a life that seems over can find new purpose. That love really can cross any divide, not just between species, but between who we were and who we can become." He looked down at Marina, who was trying to bite his finger with her tiny, slightly too sharp teeth. "The secret is that sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a better one." Ariana smiled, that expression that had captured Caleb's heart the first night they met. "Come on, cowboy. Let's go home. Both of them, your world and mine. Because they're not separate anymore. They're just home." They dove beneath the waves together, a family forged from impossibility, carrying with them the hope that two civilizations could share not just a planet, but a future. The water closed over them, luminescent trails marking their passage into the depths, where ancient cities glowed with renewed life and the promise of tomorrow. Caleb Morrison had inherited secrets when he married into the Pelagian secrets about the ocean's depths, about intelligent life humanity never knew existed, about ancient weapons and modern desperation. But the greatest secret of all was the one he discovered in himself, that even the most broken soul could be the bridge between worlds, and that sometimes the most ordinary man could be exactly what history needed. The lonely cowboy was lonely no more. And in saving a civilization beneath the waves, he'd finally saved himself.